Hey everyone! So today I am starting a little series on spiritual cleansing. So I have been trying to record this series for the past couple of months, but I have not gotten to the recording phase. I know I talked about this a couple times on Instagram, but for some reason, every time I'm trying to record the video, it's always like some kind of distraction comes in and then the videos are never recorded. But now I am recording this series just because I feel like spiritual baths and spiritual cleansing is a very, very powerful tool to utilize during an awakening process, during your awakening journey, if this is something that resonates with you. You know, I know everybody is not fond of taking baths or, mixing all these kind of herbs and stuff together because it can be time consuming, but I feel like spiritual cleansing was a major tool that helped me in the beginning of my awakening journey and really prevented me from being in a mental hospital. So I really feel strongly about utilizing this tool and just helping you stay more balanced and able to navigate a lot of the heavy, dense emotional states and just the purging aspects that can come up during like a process that could cause you to get on medication and all these crazy things for people that have like spiritual crisis situations, so yeah, a little bit about spiritual cleansing. It's basically something that has been around for since the ancient days. Like a lot of ancient cultures and religions utilize spiritual cleansings, from like Egyptian culture, a lot of the African cultures like the hoodoo and these very traditional indigenous ways of living that we've kind of been far removed from, all utilized some form of spiritual cleansing. Even methods of like Christianity and Muslim cultures, they still utilize those practices now. But I feel like our modern times, we have really drawn away from those basic fundamental elements of like spiritual hygiene and just spiritual routines, that we're trying to relearn those aspects back. Like these were like literally the roots of what we use just to stay spiritually balanced and stay super connected to our own higher self and source, to God, to everything, and just to stay in that peaceful, centered state. So one of the main aspects of spiritual cleansing is the utilization of water. All these cultures understood the power and the divinity that water represented and how it was that medium between all of our existence. Like it is basically the foundation of life. And the fact that water is such a powerful element, and it's basically essentially what we use to survive, this is one of the main components in spiritual cleansings. That's why a lot of times it's recommended like, oh, go into the sea, salt oceans and just cleanse off, because that is a natural way to spiritually cleanse yourself. But most people aren't always directly by a big body of water or a big ocean, so a lot of people do not get to do that on a daily or even a regular basis. And a lot of times in our modern culture or in our modern world, our water has been very deadened down, like from the fluorinated pipes to all the manufactured things going on with water. We lose a little bit of that bioelectric charge in water, so it can also lessen the healing capacities in a bit. But we always have the power to recharge our water and set those intentions and bring it back to its full capacity. But the more we start to work with this energy of water and utilize it more and more with our conscious intent, this can be our vehicle to help us release and let go like any of these emotions or these thoughts or these ways of viewing the world that do not serve us. And that's another powerful tool of spiritual cleansing. It really helps you shed those layers of everything that is not really you. Things that you picked up from your childhood, emotional states that can be still lodged within your body and your organs that need to be dissolved and transmuted. All of these things are what we do when we're spiritual cleansing. And this is also with the help of like crystals, herbs, minerals, you know, other tools that are out there just to help us with this clearing and energizing and bringing our full form back to life and transforming who we are, like going from one state of being to another. So although like spiritual cleansing doesn't sound that complicated, or it doesn't sound that exciting, it can be very, very powerful tool to utilize when you have the right combinations and you're doing it on a consistent basis based on what you need in your life at that moment. It can have a massive effect on your overall well-being. So now I want to talk about some of the reasons why you may want to do a spiritual cleansing. Like, what does it help you clear? So one of the main things, like I just spoke up on, is like mental thoughts, like thought forms, old emotions, outdated beliefs. You know, sometimes we can get into these habits, or most of us can be in these habits of we're repeating the same thoughts over and over on a consistent basis. And when we start to clear some of those layers out like that spiritual grime, we could start to formulate new ways of thinking. It's a lot easier. You know, there has been a lot of times when I've heard from people like, oh, it's so hard to get out of this negative thinking pattern, or man, I'm always thinking this way, like how can I shift that? Sometimes using spiritual baths helps you shift that a lot easier, because it's basically going into the auric field and like removing those thought forms and those belief structures out of your etheric body, your emotional body as well, depending on the strength of your bath. So that's one powerful way spiritual baths could be used. And then spiritual baths can also be used to clear like the evil eye, or it can be used to clear jinxes, because sometimes, especially if you're sensitive, you could be picking up thoughts and emotions from other people. You know, maybe somebody at work, or you know, even at your house, they don't really like you and they're sending you hateful thoughts or envy or jealousy. You can still have these things that are stored up in your own auric field. So utilizing these spiritual baths also helps clear that out, as well as jinxes. Sometimes you can be in these repetitive loops, and this can also help you clear some of those energies out to formulate new paths of being. And then there's also to clear attachments or energetic debris that you can pick up as well. You know, a lot of times some people could be holding on to having attachments that are latched onto the auric field, and these could cause you to think thoughts that are not your own, have behavior patterns that are not your own, personality changes that are not your own, or you could be picking up all kinds of things. You know, recently I was kind of actually attacked by some like centipede type leeches, and like it's very strange, but they were like latching onto my auric field and I was feeling it. This was actually on my fast, so I was like feeling them on me. So these are like things that you can clear out with a spiritual cleansing. I had to go in and do some spiritual cleansing for that. You know, there's all kinds of things out in the astral plane, and usually a lot of times, especially when you're awakening, you can get more things being targeted at you when your light starts to get brighter and brighter, because a lot of times, you know, although we are changing things up, it could be a situation where you can be a little bit more targeted when your light starts to expand, to keep your light dim. So you really have to have a good spiritual hygiene and meditation practice to stay moving forward, because the higher you go, the more of a target you could possibly be, you know. So that's also a powerful way to utilize spiritual baths. And then a lot of times, you know, spiritual baths can be used just to help you, like if you are somebody that is putting a lot of, or you have put a lot of self-hatred into your own self. You know, a lot of times, you know, we could be our own worst enemy, and a lot of us have put all these thought forms and programs on our own self, like you don't believe in yourself, you're not worthy enough, you never think you're good enough, and you're always having those thoughts, or just any kind of self-hatred thought or a limiting belief. You know, you don't like this about you, or you hate that about you, and you're constantly feeding yourself those thoughts year after year, day after day. That could still be something that you want to cleanse out, to formulate new thoughts of self-love and more compassion and understanding for yourself. You know, that's usually a common one for a lot of people, because a lot of people think like it's always like somebody else, or oh, this person's being hateful towards me, but a lot of times we are our own worst critics, our own worst enemies, and we're putting on a lot of this energy that isn't healthy for us on our own self. So these could help just switch out that energy, just give you a new leap on life, and just a new way of viewing the world. You know, I know for me, when I started doing these, like it was a lot easier for me to get out of that mindset of, oh my god, the world's against me, and be more understanding and broaden my view of the world like a lot faster. Yeah, I remember spiritual baths was the main thing that helped me switch that perspective, like in terms of being like, oh, everybody's out to get me, and being extra paranoid, and understanding that, you know what, the world can be a good place to live, everybody can accept you, and you know, you can be one with the world, you know. So yeah, it works in a lot of mysterious ways sometimes that I can't always explain, because every herb has a different element. So they work subtle, like in the emotional body and the mental body, so you don't always pinpoint exactly what it's doing, but you know it's doing something very powerful within you. So I talked about emotions, I talked about mental thoughts, clearing attachments or energies, deep-seated emotions and traumas. That's also another one. You know, if you're doing these baths, after a while, old emotions and old memories can start to brew up in the bath. I had many times when that's happened to me, and just crying or just getting angry in the bath, and just you just have to allow those emotions to flow, flowing like the ocean, you know. Yeah, so I had a lot of powerful releases in the bathtub, so that may be something you might experience as well. And the more you start to do these baths, you'll start to realize after some time, you notice how much clearer your mind is. You'll notice you have a lot more stillness. If you're somebody that suffers with like a lot of, you're really racy or antsy, like you feel like you can never sit still, this definitely something that can calm you, center you, and allow you to be in a place of being still and just being okay with not doing anything. You know, that was always a big thing for me. Like I always needed to be moving, or like antsy, or very busybody, but that was something that switched very fast for me, and I was able to start sitting down, and I was starting to be able to cultivate a meditation practice and just loving the moments of stillness. So that's another powerful way it can help assist you as well. So yeah, those are just some ways that you can utilize the spiritual bath, and what is a spiritual bath. And then I'm going to talk about different kinds of herbs and elements that you can put in a bath, and share with you guys some mental properties of different herbs and tools that I like to utilize as well in the next one, because this video is probably going to be super long. So I will see you guys in the next one. If you're somebody that already does spiritual baths, let me know your favorite combination down below. If you haven't heard of it before, I also want to hear that as well. And yeah, so I will see you guys. Bye.